President, thank you for sitting down with me again.
Thank you.
Very proud to be talking to you. You've been really busy, and I have to ask you, it's been 7 or 8 weeks since would-be assassin Thomas Matthew Crooks climbed on top of a roof on a shockingly close building right in front of you and fired 8 rounds from an AR-style assault rifle, shooting you in the ear. Experts said, frankly, you shouldn't be here right now. Experts said a kill shot was almost a certainty, but yet here you sit. You had to have asked yourself, you had to have reflected on this. How am I here and why am I here? How do you answer that question?
I was lucky I went down quickly, because if I didn't go down quickly, bullets were coming right over my head when I was down. I heard them. They were moving along. They moved pretty fast. I said, how fast does a bullet go? They said about 3,000 miles an hour. That's a lot. They gave it to me in feet, and then they gave it to me. I said, no, I want to know in miles per hour. And it's more than 3,000 miles an hour, and you hear it. You hear the whipping sound. So I was lucky in that regard. But the big luck was, because that's something you can control. You go down quickly. If you don't go down quickly, you have a problem. But the big thing was the turn. And it wasn't only the turn, it had to be a perfect 90-degree turn, or I wouldn't be with you today. And I had to be looking at something to the right, and the people, we had massive crowds, and they were in front. So there was no reason to be looking to the right. You had no people right or left. And you know the graph, my all-time favorite graph, showing my great numbers on immigration, stopping immigration virtually at the border, which is a big subject. And I was very proud of that graph, but I only use it about 20% of the time. It's always on my left, and it's always at the end of my speeches, always. And this was the very beginning of the speech. I mean, like the very beginning, it was on my right. So if you add it all up, it's like millions to one, millions, the odds.
So why were you spared? You've had to reflect on this alone in the middle of the night in the golf cart riding down the way thinking about it. How do you answer that? Why were you spared?
So there had to be some great power, because you just can't say millions to one, millions to one. I used to say 1,000,000 to 1. It's much more than that, because, again, you have to pull down the sign. There has to be a reason to go right, and I never go right. There's no reason. And not only go right, it's for about 1/8 of a second. It's not just right. It's out of all the time that we're on this planet, it's 1/8 of a second, right? So I shouldn't be with you. So,
is there a purpose?
Well,
is there a reason you think you were spared?
I mean, the only thing I can think is that God loves our country, and he thinks we're going to bring our country back. He wants to bring it back. It's so bad right now what's happening. When you look at the crime, the horrible things that are happening inside our country, and it can be solved. It can be solved fairly quickly. It has to be God. I mean, how can you say it's luck when it's, 20 million to 1, okay? I mean, it's just not possible that I was in that position. It's the only position where that bullet could have missed.
And you believe in God?
I do.
You believe God's hand was in this that day?
I believe so, yeah, I do.
And you talk about the country. You believe you have more to do. You weren't done. You were spared for a reason.
Well, God believes that, I guess. We'll have to see. Number one, I'm in an election with a very vicious group of people. I won the election against Biden. I was up by 17 or 18 points after the debate. And they said, you know what, he's going to lose. They went and told him he's going to lose, and we're going to change you out. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it. In fact, he said, only God will change me. But so who knows what happened there? But he said, I'm not leaving. He got 14 million votes, and Kamala got none, 0. She ran against him. She got 0. She never made it to Iowa, which is the first state. And here she is. She's on the other side. But, it's like nobody ever had this before. You have an opponent. In politics, you have an opponent, and you win or you lose. But you don't have an opponent, and then you're doing well against the opponent. They take him out. They give you a new opponent. They give you a nice, fresh opponent. And so I have to win that. And if I win that, that would really serve to say that there's some incredible power up there that wanted me to be involved in saving, and maybe it's more than saving the nation, maybe it's saving the world. You know, I get along with all those tough guys. And Russia wouldn't have gone into Ukraine. You'd have 1 million people living right now. You'd have cities all over Ukraine. I mean, these magnificent cities with the domes and the golden domes and towers, they'd all be up. They're right now demolished. So many, those cities, the country is just demolished. Israel wouldn't have happened. October 7th would have never happened. Iran was broke with me. And I don't want them to be broke, but I don't want them to have a nuclear weapon.
So you think you're meant to take those challenges on? You're meant to serve in that way?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. In thinking about it, it's beyond any of us, I guess, to really know that. But I can say that for that bullet to have gone along this path right here, and for that bullet to have gone along that path and hit the top of my ear, as opposed to any other place, would have been no good.
How'd you feel about the Secret Service and the job they did?
Well, look, they were very brave, because when those bullets were coming at me, and you saw it, I was down, because I went down quickly, fortunately. Otherwise, because the bullets were going right over my head. So that was another thing. But see, I don't talk about that as that was a question of going down. The other was a question of you had to be in an exact, perfect position, and it's almost impossible to have achieved that position. You have to be right. You have to have used the graph. The whole thing is just so crazy. You never use it at the beginning of the speech. Never. I've never used it at the beginning. I just said, pull down the graph. And I look over at the graph, and I get whacked.